When the pattern is right, the glory will fall. And you'll notice that all throughout the Bible that there are patterns. You know, when God gave Solomon all of the instructions for the temple, I want you to notice that until Solomon did everything that he was required to do by God, and when they constructed the temple, there was very specific. You know, there were dimensions that had to be followed. There were certain things that had to be in place. But I want you to notice that no glory filled that temple until it was completed. When the pattern's right, the glory will fall. And today I'm going to share with you, we're talking about serving. We're talking about, you know, some of the happiest Christians that I've ever met in my life are Christian people who have taken their life and they've made serving a very central part of who they are. Over the years, and I've probably mentioned this before, there has just been this decline from people that want to serve in their local church. And because of that, me as a pastor, we have to begin to supplement the people that will no longer want to come and serve, and we have to start hiring people and paying people. Like I said before, if you're a technical person and we bring you in and you're doing something that you've gone to school for years for and you're doing a job for us, I'm not saying people coming to the church and working for free. I'm saying that people that are a part of the local body coming and giving of their time, talent, and treasury for the goodness and for the benefit of the whole body. And so today what we're going to talk about is really, it's about four servants. And it's an accounting in the Bible, and it's a very, very popular accounting of something that happens. But we're going to be in the book of 2 Kings today, 2 Kings. And we're going to look and begin in verse 5. And yes, 2 Kings is in the Old Testament. And this is powerful. Now, in 2 Kings chapter 5, and I'll just give you just a little bit of what's happening. 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 1. Now Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great and honorable man in the eyes of his master, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was also a mighty man of valor, but a leper. I want you to notice that Naaman was someone that was outside of the covenant. He was actually part of a nation that was at odds with Israel, and at this point Israel was not doing great. This is time where you had the time of the prophets, and I want you to notice that this whole story, this entire account and this entire thing, we all know that obviously that Naaman, he goes to Israel, that he goes to the prophet, that the prophet tells him to dunk 7 times, you know, in the river Jordan, and that Naaman does it, and that when he gets healed, he comes out and he goes back to his nation. And that's really kind of what we all know about the story. But if it's not for 4 servants, I would dare to say if the pattern of these 4 servants, had these 4 servants not been at the right place at the right time, there would not have been an opportunity for this great miracle to take place. And so let me just show you the very first servant. If you'll look in 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 2, and it says, "And the Syrians had gone out on raids and brought back captive a young girl from the land of Israel. She waited on Naaman's wife. Then she said to her mistress, 'If only my master were with the prophet who is in Samaria, for he would heal him of leprosy.' And Naaman went and told his master, saying, 'Thus and thus said the girl who is from the land of Israel.'" Now, this is servant number 1. Now, let's try and get a picture of this. I want you to notice that this little girl had been taken in a raid. This was a girl that was from the land of Israel, but this other nation would come in and they would raid their villages, they would raid their towns, and they would take people captive and make them slaves. So the very, very first servant involved in this miracle is a servant girl who got taken and kidnapped from another nation. And this little girl, she chose to speak to Naaman and tell Naaman's wife that, you know what? There's a prophet in Israel. And if Naaman will go and see this prophet, I know that my God will heal Naaman. Now, Naaman had a choice. And obviously, Naaman made the right choice because Naaman believed her. Naaman then goes to his king and says, you know, I've heard thus and thus about this prophet. Can you send a letter to the king of Israel and see if you can set this meeting up so that I can go and be healed? Well, the king does it, sends a letter to the king, and all of a sudden the king of Israel is freaking out because now he's got this letter that he's now somehow responsible to heal the commander of one of his enemies. And so we all know what happens next. Now, I want you to notice that this first little girl that she was taking in a raid, and she was in captivity. She had every reason and every right not to help, but she didn't. She helped. Maybe she looked beyond her own circumstances and saw something bigger. She went over and above her call of duty. Let's look at the second servant, shall we? Look at 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 10. And it says, and this is after Naaman had gone, they go to Elisha's house. Naaman is there with all of his cavalry. He's there with gifts, and they're there so that the prophet can heal them. And so now we have 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 10. And Elisha sent a messenger to him. I want you to notice this is servant number 2. Servant number 2 is the messenger. Elisha himself did not go and perform this healing over Naaman. Elisha sent a messenger. And Elisha sent a messenger to him saying, go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored to you, and you shall be clean. But Naaman became furious and went away and said, indeed, I said to myself, he will surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and wave his hands over the place and heal the leprosy. I want you to notice that this servant, this messenger, and this is very, very important when we're a servant, all this servant did was do what the master told him to do. This is kind of a picture of God's word. When God speaks to us, God doesn't speak to us directly. He speaks to us through his word. And if we'll just do what the word says, we're doing what God says. Naaman got upset because he did not like for a servant to come out and now perform whatever this great miracle. See, Naaman was looking for the spectacular. Naaman was looking for the heavens to open, and because he was a great and powerful man, he was expecting to be met by the same intensity, I guess is a good word of saying it. He was expecting there to be this grand miracle, this wonderful, great thing that takes place. And all that happened was Elisha sent out his messenger and said, tell him to do this, this, and this. Now, let's bring in servant number 3. In 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 13, it says, and his servants came near and spoke to him and said, my father, if the prophet had told you to do something great, would you not have done it? How much more then when he says to you, wash and be clean? So he went down and he dipped 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God, and his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. I want you to notice when the pattern was right, when you had the servant girl that did her part, when you had Elisha's servant that did his part, and when you had Naaman's servants that did their part, the pattern was right, and now the glory was there for Naaman to actually be healed. When the pattern is right, the glory will fall. Well, Pastor, what's it have to do with anything? When you and I are serving in our local church, when you and I are, that servant girl, she had every reason not to be at her post that day. That servant girl had every reason not to want to help Naaman or help Naaman's wife or want any part of that. She had been taken captive, but yet she recognized and realized that she was a part of something much bigger than herself. I want you to know that when Elisha's servant went out, Elisha's servant at that point did exactly what Elisha told him to do. He didn't add to his words. He didn't subtract to his words. He didn't make Naaman or any of their team do anything out of the ordinary. All he did was he was faithful to do what Elisha had told him to do. And that's a big part of serving. Serving is not just giving lip service. Serving is not just, well, I'm going to do what you're telling me to do on the outside, but on the inside, I'm telling you that you're wrong. No. True serving from a true servant's heart has the ability to produce a peace and produce a power that can help bring about miracles and bring about the glory of God. And all this messenger simply did is he just did. See, that's such a big part of serving and a big part of promotion. We have to be faithful. And I'm speaking to somebody right now. Well, Pastor Jack, when am I faithful? When you're faithful. You can't be faithful coming one time. You can't be faithful to serving in your children's department by just coming once and then canceling the next 5 times that you're scheduled. That's not being faithful. You are not going to experience any of the benefits or any of the joys or any of the fruit of serving until you become faithful, not just diligent, but faithful. Faithful is doing what we are asked to do and doing it with the right heart and doing it over a long season of time. So I want you to notice that this messenger came out. He was faithful. He did what Elisha told him to do. And then you've got another set of servants because Naaman did not like what the messenger said. Naaman was looking for, I want the big ticket, I want the big show, I want you to wave your hands over me, I want all that. But his servant, see, this is what's so important about having the right servant in the right place. These servants were able to speak to Naaman in a way and speak the truth to him in love. See, when we are serving in the house of God, it's important that we speak the truth in love to those that are coming and to those that are in the body. One of the great parts about being a part of the body of Christ is that we have to learn how to live with each other. And the Bible is very, very clear about we are to be submitted one to another. We should come to church and it should be a fight to see who can prefer who first. There should be a line at the door because nobody wants to be the first to walk in. They want to always be preferring somebody else to go in. We should be looking for opportunities to prefer one another. These servants with Naaman, they were able to speak to him peaceably. They were able to speak with him with truth and with love and say, Master, you're exactly right. But you know what? If we just do what that messenger told us to do, what do we have to lose? We're already here. Let's go ahead and just do, let's go ahead and let's just go ahead. Let me just fulfill my position as a true servant and let me speak to you as the servant. Let me speak the truth to you in love. And see, that's what's so good about Naaman because guess what? Naaman was also a servant. He's the bonus servant. The story is really about 4 servants, not about 3. Because you're going to find out that because Naaman was a servant, it put him in a position. Well, how do you know that Naaman was a servant? Because one of the last things that he does after he gets healed is he tells Elijah, look, I have to serve the king of my nation. I have to serve him. I have to take him when he goes and serves his gods. But I know that there's only one true God in Israel. See, when Naaman had that miracle, when all those servants were in the right place at the right time, it produced a miracle, and Naaman knew without a shadow of a doubt who the real God was. And so when he went back and he had to serve his old master, he said, let this not be a hindrance to me. I'm only doing it because I'm here to serve my master. See, everything in the Bible is about serving. If you want to win somebody over, serve them. Paul made this statement. He said, I didn't come with clever words of men, but he came. There was something about Paul when he went and when he talked to people about the word, but I definitely think it's because he came with a servant's heart. He came to serve like Jesus served. And when we come to serve, you can totally disarm anybody that's around you. My wife and I, Michelle, we have learned over and over again that whenever we come into a new organization or a new situation, we always look for an opportunity to serve. Because when we serve, it takes all of this, who are they? Are they here to take our place? We've been working hard so that we can, we want to be the leaders here. Man, that's great. We're just here to help and we're just here to serve. And I can't tell you how many times that we have won people over for Christ just because we went and we served. Man, I hope you got something out of this today. be a part of a miracle. If you want to be a part of a miracle at your local church, I want you to serve. Find a place of service. God is wanting to do miracles in His church today, but we've got to make sure that the pattern is right so the glory can fall. God bless you. We'll see you next week.